Welcome to What's New to Virginia Sentencing Guidelines in 2026. There are 4 changes that go into effect for anybody sentenced July 1st, 2026 or after. There are new fraud and larceny guidelines. One new offense has been added to the guidelines for anyone sentenced on or after July 1st, 2026. A primary offense factor has been added to the assault worksheet B, and there is a revised nonviolent risk assessment.
Major changes to fraud and larceny. Property value is no longer a determining factor, for example, whether the amount is $1,000 or more. The prior historical offense classification, misdemeanor versus felony, is generally no longer relevant. The focus is now on the offense type when reviewing prior convictions, larceny offense versus fraud offense, for example. The 5 most recent and serious prior conviction factor has been removed from the new fraud and larceny worksheets. Prior record is now scored based on the total number of qualifying prior convictions in the defendant's criminal history. This includes all counts. The emphasis shifts from offense value and penalty level to the number and type of prior offenses. The new fraud guidelines are based on a comprehensive analysis of available sentencing data in cases where fraud was the primary offense. The recommended dispositions are designed to closely match the historical rate of incarceration. The new fraud worksheets remain a bifurcated system. Worksheet A is used to determine if the recommendation is probation no incarceration or incarceration of 1 day or more. For the primary offense remaining counts factor, points will be assigned based on the number of remaining counts of the primary offense not scored in the primary offense factor. For the additional offense counts factor, points are assigned based on the number of counts of the instant offenses. If the total score is 11 points or less, the recommendation will be probation, no incarceration. If the total score is 12 or more, the preparer will be directed to Worksheet C for a recommendation of at least 1 day in jail. There is no Worksheet B for fraud. Worksheet C will determine a jail or prison sentence. The fraud recommendation table has been adjusted to reflect recommendations for a jail sentence. There are several new or revised factors on Worksheet C. Points are assigned for the type of additional offense factor when there is an additional offense with the VCC prefix of ROB, WPN, ASL, or FAM. Points are assigned for each additional offense that has a mandatory minimum of 2 to 3 years or 5 years or more. If there are multiple additional offenses with mandatory minimums, assign points to each and total the points. A victim injury factor has been added to Worksheet C. Points are assigned for any type of victim injury. In most cases, the injury is related to an additional offense. Prior incarceration commitments factors have been modified. Points are assigned based on the prior sentencing event with the greatest amount of active time received. Determine whether the prior conviction resulted in an active prison sentence, 12 months or more, or an active jail sentence, less than 12 months. Fully suspended sentences are not scored. The larceny worksheets, like the new fraud worksheets, now follow the worksheet structure used for robbery, Worksheet A and Worksheet C. The new larceny worksheets remain a bifurcated system. Worksheet A is used to determine if the recommendation is probation no incarceration or incarceration of 1 day or more. There are several new or revised factors on Worksheet A. Points are assigned for the primary offense remaining counts factor based on the number of counts of the primary offense not scored above. Points are assigned based on the number of prior felony and misdemeanor conviction counts in the defendant's record. Total the number of prior conviction counts in the defendant's record and enter the corresponding score based on that total. A mandatory minimum factor has been added to Worksheet A. Points are assigned if any conviction in the current sentencing event has a mandatory minimum sentence. There is no longer a Worksheet B for larceny. Worksheet C will determine a jail or prison sentence. The larceny recommendation table has been adjusted to reflect recommendations for a jail sentence. There are several new or revised factors on Worksheet C. Points are assigned for the primary offense remaining counts factor based on the number of counts of the primary offense not scored above. A type of additional offense factor has been added. Assign 5 points if there is an additional felony offense in the current sentencing event with a VCC prefix of ROB or WPN. Assign 9 points if there is an additional felony offense with a VCC prefix of ASL or MUR. Assign points only once, based on the VCC prefix with the highest point value. A mandatory minimum factor has been added to Worksheet C. Points are assigned if any conviction in the current sentencing event has a mandatory minimum sentence. A weapon used factor was added to Worksheet C. Points are assigned if a defendant or co-defendant used, brandished, or threatened to use a weapon for any offense in the sentencing event. A weapon may be scored on the guidelines if it is connected to the primary or additional offense. For example, the conviction resulted from a robbery that was reduced to larceny. The prior larceny convictions adjudications factor has been modified to include both prior misdemeanor and felony larceny conviction counts and adjudications. Total the number of prior felony and misdemeanor convictions, including counts, in the defendant's criminal history, and assign points based on the number of counts. Scoring no longer depends on the value of the property or the applicable penalty at the time of the offense. Remember to submit new fraud or larceny guidelines if a sentencing hearing for fraud or larceny was continued until July 1st, 2026 or after.
This year, one offense has been added to the guidelines for anyone sentenced on or after July 1st, 2026. False statement and application for payment under medical assistance as defined by 32.1-314 has been added to the fraud worksheets. For those defendants, they will pick up 7 points for the primary offense factor on Worksheet A, and for Worksheet C, if their prior record category is Category 1, they will pick up 3 points. If their prior record classification is Category 2, they will pick up 2 points. And if they have no violent prior record, they will pick up 1 point for the primary offense factor. The third change is a primary offense factor has been added to Assault Worksheet B. So all assault guidelines offenses now receive 1 point for the primary offense factor on Worksheet B. The Section B recommendation table has been adjusted to account for this additional point while preserving historical sentencing recommendations. This change helps staff identify assault cases involving no physical injury. There is also a revised nonviolent risk assessment for fraud and larceny worksheets. The revised nonviolent risk assessment incorporates the following key factors: the offender's age at the time of the offense, prior adult incarcerations, prior adult felony person convictions, and just a reminder, always refer to Appendix E in your sentencing guidelines manual for a list of person crimes, and lastly, any arrest or confinement 12 months prior to the offense. Defendants who receive a total score of 7 points or less will be recommended for an alternative punishment.
A few important reminders. Per Code Section 19.2-298.01, subsection E, sentencing guidelines must be submitted for every felony sentencing event, including cases that will result in deferred findings. In deferred cases, the judge would check taken under advisement and other sentencing programs. In cases where the defendant has violated the conditions of the deferred findings, guidelines must be submitted to the court. In those cases, you can clone the original guidelines submitted to the court, update them if needed, and change the F to a D for each felony offense in the VCC. This illustration shows how to change the F in the VCC to a D when the defendant has violated the terms of the deferred findings. It also shows how to check a box that indicates that is why you have changed the F to a D.
Just a reminder that all probation violation guidelines should be updated with the correct docket number once the capias or show cause is issued, and updated guidelines must be finalized as necessary. Probation violation guidelines must be finalized using the correct docket number. This will place the guidelines on the judge's docket. Make sure that the name and docket number matches what is in the court's file so the guidelines will appear on the judge's docket. And also remember to use the docket number for the revocation and not the underlying offense. When the court elects to conduct a series of separate probation violation hearings to address multiple violations that are not part of a continuous course of conduct based on the Canales case, multiple guidelines must be submitted to the court. The court must advise the probation officer of the order in which the violations will be heard, and the court must advise the probation officer of the outcome after each hearing. This information enables the probation officer to update the guidelines to reflect subsequent hearings accurately. Here we have an example of a defendant being brought back for their first violation. The probation officer has noted that it is their first technical violation of 2 through 11, and they've cited conditions 3, 6, and 8 in the major violation report. The court has notified probation that each violation will be addressed in separate hearings and that the violation of condition 3 will be addressed in the first hearing. So on the revocation report, with the first set of guidelines being submitted to the court, the probation officer would indicate that it is the first technical violation of 2 through 11, and they would only check the box for condition number 3 being cited. This defendant is currently on probation for grand larceny. They were convicted of grand larceny on February 7, 2026. They were given a 5-year sentence, all suspended, conditioned on supervised probation. So the start of the current supervision period is also February 7, 2026. It is their first revocation, so they are only going to pick up 2 points for number of felony revocation events for current offense. And since we are only scoring the factors on the worksheet based on condition 3 being cited, although a drug violation was cited in the MVR, that is not the condition we are addressing for this hearing, so the defendant will not pick up 7 points for the factor drug violation cited. Since the court advised the probation officer that they will handle the violation of condition 6 in the second hearing, when the probation officer prepares the sentencing revocation report, they are going to cite only condition 6, and they are going to check that it is their second technical violation of 2 through 11. Since the court is only addressing the violation of condition 6 in the second hearing, we are only scoring factors based on a violation of condition 6. The defendant did not receive active time for the first revocation, so the amount of revocable time remains the same. In this case, the amount of revocable time remains 5 years. The original sentencing date and start of current supervision period will remain the same. Since this is now the defendant's second revocation event for the underlying offense, they will pick up 12 points for this being their second revocation. And again, no points will be assigned for the factor drug violation cited, since the court is only addressing the violation of condition 6 in the second hearing. Since the court advised the probation officer that the violation of condition 8 will be addressed in the third hearing, the probation officer needs to submit a third set of revocation guidelines addressing the violation of condition 8 only. So the sentencing revocation report, the probation officer will check only condition 8 as a DOC condition cited, and they will check that it is their third or subsequent technical violation. Since the court is only addressing the violation of condition 8 in this third hearing, we are only scoring factors based on a violation of condition 8. Since the defendant was sentenced to 14 days active time in the second hearing, the amount of revocable time needs to be adjusted to reflect that previous sentence. For this third hearing, the amount of revocable time is 4 years, 11 months, and 16 days. The original sentencing date and start of current supervision period will remain the same. Since this is now the defendant's third revocation for the underlying offense, they will pick up 24 points on this set of guidelines. Since the court is addressing the violation of Condition 8 for drug use, 7 points will be assigned for the factor drug violation condition cited. In cases where this information is not available, the probation officer must clone the guidelines to include all alleged violations of probation conditions. The court must then indicate on the disposition page, the back page, which conditions were addressed at the hearing, the sentence imposed, including any additional sentencing details, and when applicable, the remaining revocable time available for future hearings. So in these instances, the judge will report which condition was addressed in this hearing. They will adjust the amount of revocable time as needed for this hearing, and then they will enter the time and imposed and suspended for this hearing. And just another reminder that all guidelines submitted to the court must be finalized in SWIFT. If you need a SWIFT account, you can contact us at swift@vcsc.virginia.gov. Include your name, email address, bar number if you are an attorney, and the name of your primary court, and a SWIFT account will be created for you. You can also visit the Commission's mobile site by texting VCSC to 804-656-5111 or scan the QR code on your screen. You can also contact staff by phone 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday at 804-225-4398. You can also text staff at 804-393-9588 or 804-656-5111. You can contact staff by email. Our email addresses are posted on the Commission's website at www.vcsc.virginia.gov. Just a reminder that manuals, VCC books, and updates will be shipped in late June. An order form for the 29th edition of Virginia Sentencing Guidelines Manual is available on the Commission's websites. Judges, Commonwealth attorneys, public defenders, and probation officers will automatically be shipped updates based on the number requested last year. You can also find a list of our upcoming training seminars on our website. This year we have added a Knowledge and Skills Guidelines training class, which is for the more experienced user. You can register for any seminar or place an order manual by either downloading our registration form from our website or going to the mobile version of our website and submitting the application electronically. Remember, you can always contact staff at the Commission should you have any questions.